Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Infectious Geek. My name's Tori and I'm your host. Tonight we are going to talk about conspiracy theories. This is my favorite. Here is my co-host Kevin.
Hello.
Other way, this way. There we go. I can't even figure it out. Okay. Anyway, so how are you tonight, Kevin?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. How was your day? Did you do anything fun?
Eh, Nothing. Getting a little bit of deep diving on this, but
Yeah.
nothing too outside the normally abnormal.
Yeah. So what did I do today? I didn't do anything. Not at all. I created the event today and anyway, so we are going to do about conspiracy theories and we have so many to talk about that I'm sure we're going to do part 2, maybe even a part 3. And
I got a
I want
surprise one for you too.
Ooh, I love surprises. All right. So, one thing that I love about conspiracy theories is everyone has one, right? And like, so I think it was the 70s, um, maybe the 80s. There was a book that came out. It was called Behold a Pale Horse. And
Behold.
yes. And it was about conspiracy theories. And it was the first of its kind, like actually a book about real life conspiracy theories that people were thinking about at the time. And it kind of revolutionized how people talked about conspiracy theories because beforehand, everybody thought you were nuts if you were talking about hidden commies and CIA agents, like everybody thought, oh my God, but this kind of made it
Definitely.
more, yeah, made it more mainstream, right? So I thought that we could talk about our favorites. One of them, mine, is the Manhattan Project. And then there's another one. I can't remember the name of the actual conspiracy, but like it's
Keep in mind, you've got people tuning in that will have no idea what we're talking about. So you're gonna have to
yeah.
expand. Like I'm supposed to say, well, what is the Manhattan Project?
Oh yeah. No, but I don't want to start with that one. I don't want to start
Oh,
with that one.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I was just naming that. Yeah.
Deep
So
diving off the bat.
yeah. So um what is one of yours? Just name one, one of the top ones.
Well, I'll tell. Bohemian Grove, I think, is the father of conspiracies.
Okay. All right. So I guess that we should start with that because if it's the father of all conspiracies, it's just going to grow from there, right? It's going to, yeah. I just watched this show called Bird Notice and I never saw it before. It's older.
It
Yes,
rocks.
it does rock. I was like, oh my God, in the
It
series,
teaches you like 80 ways to make a bomb. Not that you should be interested in those things.
right? I mean, it taught you how to lie and how to get out of a certain situation. Anyway, it was a really good spy.
My favorite was the dedication, where he's like willing to
Yeah.
dislocate his shoulder or cut himself with a piece of glass to sell the lie. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
That's yeah. And he had such perfect posture. We were talking about that yesterday. Like, he like he would like sit like this. Like he looked
He's a monk or
uncomfortable.
something. Yeah, he,
Yeah.
he does he does really good in everything he plays. Actually, he's played a fake psychic on this. I forget the name of the show. You'll have to look into it, but plays a fake psychic that later gets a head injury and experiences real psychic phenomena. I mean, he's always plays this serious, intelligent dude.
Yeah, yeah, I love him as an actor. And I think that it kind of gives a segue into conspiracy theories as well, because honestly, like, there was that whole thing could be a conspiracy theory, Michael Weston could have been his own conspiracy, honestly, like, that's my opinion. But anyway, so, all right, Bohemian Grove. Tell us a little bit about this.
All right, how to even describe this for real? You've heard the buzzword Illuminati, the sort of secret hand hidden governing people that allegedly run the world, which may or may not be true. What we can say is true, though, is that we've had like cults since the dawn of time interested in that type of phenomena. And the Bohemian Grove started off as something called the Bohemian Club, and it was an elite invitation-only special club. This was in 1872, founded by male artists, writers, actors, journalists, etc. Now it's still done to this day, but in a sort of ritualistic format. Every July, I think it is, in California, and there's a place called Bohemian Grove, and Bill Clinton was a part of it, and a lot of name brand celebrities are a part of it, and they go there to do rituals, the burning of fake kid sacrifices, gay male orgies. I mean, it's basically where the rich go to do stuff they shouldn't do at this point.
Okay. Well, that's super cool. Like, come on. Have you seen that movie, The Skulls? It's kind of like that. No, it's about a secret society and how they like have the initiation, the rituals, and the hazing and all that stuff. Like, it goes into that, and it's a whole conspiracy too. So I think that it was kind of basically loosely on the Illuminati. I mean, the Illuminati is, it's so mainstream now that it can't be true.
It's like
anymore.
saying Freemason. So it is in and of itself nothing but people aspiring to power. I mean, from the Brotherhood of the Snake in ancient Egypt to the modern Church of Satan, there's methods for all this stuff. But I'd like to comment that, because this is just a conspiracy theory of my own, but I think that we're the experiment. And we've always been the experiment, the public, in so many different ways at that. But particularly Netflix or any of these kind of things, I think the fact that there's a movie on it isn't because it's necessarily based on some truth, but more like Star Trek and things to see how we react with certain pieces of information. And I think that's always been the case. Like they introduce you to an idea to create a general body of knowledge on how we're going to act with the latest whatever.
Social
engineering.
Yes. I mean, that's basically what they're doing. Social experiments. I mean, yeah, we are the controlled variants. So, I mean, yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up, because one of the main things that I think of whenever I think of conspiracies is like the 1% and how we're their puppets and all this. And it's true, because honestly, people want to be ignorant. They want to look at the newest, fanciest, shiniest thing. They want to have that. They worship false idols. Like, this is all true stuff. We worship celebrities more than we worship Jesus, and that's no lie. Like, we put more money into them than we would ever give to our church, you know? So, like, one of the things that I thought was like, okay, let's back up. Have you ever seen a show? Okay,
we can go in a million directions from here. That's the beauty of this.
Yes. So, have you ever seen the show Conspiracy Theories with Jesse Ventura?
It's funny because I would have made a reference to a show too. I was going to say Supernatural, when Lucifer possessed Vince Vincente or whatever his name was. He said it really well. He said, humans have always wanted something to admire, something to adore, something you look up to. Why can't it be me? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
I don't think I've seen the name of the movie you just said. Repeat it.
Oh, no, it's a show. It's called Conspiracy Theories with Jesse Ventura. And if you don't know who Jesse Ventura is, he was governor of Minnesota, and he was a former WWE wrestler too. So, like,
Ace Ventura's lost brother.
Yes, no. Ace Ventura's lost brother. But he has like this like bald spot, but he still has the long hair with the ponytail in the back, and he's like, you know, yo brother, like big kind of guy. But he's
I always love that Hulk Hogan talk. Let me tell you something. No, I haven't seen it. I'll have to check it out. I don't get into a lot of those shows just because after the first 3 episodes or so, it's kind of the same.
Oh yeah, no,
you know, like aliens. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens, which is great and immortalized now. But we got the premise after, you know, the first one.
No, these are like they go through how we're going through them. They go through them. and they tell like the actual conspiracy, and then they try to go and like debunk the conspiracy. They go to like where Harp was supposedly happening and try to get on base and like all this other
Oh,
stuff.
there's a video that is right on that, involving Project Montauk and Harp and other ways, called Strange World. I think it was
Yes.
originally going to be a series. It's incredible. It later spawned the TV series we all know and have grown to love, Stranger Things.
Yeah.
But it talks about that kind of stuff in detail. They've got footage of going in these silos where the experiments were done and all kinds of stuff. You should really check it out.
Yeah.
But one of the coolest parts to me, though, is to get a mindset of what it must have been like for these people under torture and hypnosis and all that. He used something, and you can buy one of these for a couple $100, called the God Helmet. The Shiva God helmet, and it's basically, tell me this don't sound dangerous. What we're willing to do for science is insane. You put on this helmet, and it basically magnetizes your brain in different patterns to get you confused enough to hallucinate, basically.
Oh yeah.
And you can substitute LSD by wearing this magnet helmet. I wanted one, but saying it in summary form makes it sound terrifying.
Have you ever been in a sensory deprivation like capsule? Like you can't see or hear anything, and like you're just kind of floating in space, and like it messes with your mind, man. It fucks with your mind really bad. Like you don't know where up is down and down is up, and like, and so
dissociation. That's the point of it.
Yeah, so my friend, my neighbors in North Carolina when I lived there, their dad, he would smoke salvia. And I don't know if you've ever heard of salvia, but it's this plant.
The Miley Cyrus drug.
Yes, and it's basically like weed but different, and it gives you this intense hallucination for like about 5 minutes. And there's 5 stages and all this other stuff. So anyway, you can get like 90x concentrate stuff. And his dad used to smoke it and then go into the deprivation chamber for hours. And like, I always thought that was pretty cool. Like go ahead.
Well, I just want to touch in a little bit on this. That there's 2 ways to achieve a ship transbound, as I like to say, which is the goal of any drug, to get to that altered state of consciousness, which is another great movie on the topic, Altered States.
Yeah,
they wanted to find God by depriving the person of all their senses. The theory was the only thing left would be the sense of God. And a lot of people had the same kind of experience. Experiences. But overstimulation does the exact same thing. Yeah. Where you to bombard your senses, your visuals, wear headphones and listen to music or whatever, or be talking and making noise, etc., doing many things at once, which I think is the preferred method. I experiment a lot with altered states and meditation, those kind of things, Kundalini yoga. But I prefer the overstimulation due to the fact that if you get used to only doing it like a sensory tank or in a quiet place meditating and such, you won't be able to accomplish those things anywhere else because you're training yourself to only be able to do it without any interference.
Yeah.
So I would like to caution anybody who's about to go explore with a sensory tank looking to have a good trip, yeah. That there's smart ways to activate that.
Yeah, definitely. a little side note. Anyway, so so let's start. We started with Bohemian Grove, and now I want to talk about Project Montauk, because I think that whole thing, like, it's such a book.
Imagination. I saw that.
Yeah. The more you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I saw a picture of this creature that escaped that whole island, and it, for pictures, can be faked, obviously. And
I hadn't heard that part. I'm just listening.
And I just think it's really cute. The little creature, like, it was creepy but cute. It wasn't harmful. But like, how realistic is it? I think it's pretty realistic. I think that this could really be going on. Like,
I haven't seen this creature or picture or whatever to be able to make my own assessment, but with everything else that we know, it's not beyond the possibility that in addition to experimenting with humans and drugs in an underground secret silo at Camp Hero, it's not unprecedented to think that they would be doing this on animals too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, come on, like we have had so many movies and books and stuff that would theorize that this is completely possible. And I think it is because if, we've been experimenting on animals since the industrial age, really. Like even before that, like we use them as guinea pigs to a lot of things, makeup, skin moisturizers, all sorts of stuff like beauty products and hygiene products and all other things. So why would we use it to, you know, clone other things or make a
We're
Franken
already eating
creature?
clone chicken. I mean, and
Yeah.
clone tortilla chips. I had an argument with someone online recently over that because they were like, it was some ad that started about like being treated for diabetes, but you had to basically be young and obese to be part of the treatment. And it's not necessarily because it runs in the family. So, but if you meet these qualifications and you go fit this, and I was like, well, part of the reason, and I just dove into, I like triggering people. I don't know why, and I was like, well, part of the reason I was like, here's an idea, just eat well. And it just
Yeah.
spawned this big reaction from everybody. It was like, for every cup of coffee you drink a cup of water. For every 8 hours you sit down, go for a walk. I mean, you'd be surprised with doing the right things your body can do.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other subject too, because like your body is your temple and you should really treat it as such. And everybody falls back on it a little bit. I
Did you
mean,
hear about Project Sunshine? Since we're
no.
talking about all of this dangerous we would do to humans and possibly animals. Project Sunshine was in the 50s. U.S. government collected more than 1,500 pieces of human tissue. This is mostly from babies and mostly from dead bodies and without consent. And it was to test the effects of radioactive fallout from nuclear weapons. So if we're
Right.
willing, I mean, the point I'm making is we're willing to do extremely dangerous stuff, Tuskegee experiments, all kinds of crazy shit in the name of science. My all-time favorite meme, as it were, I still hate that word to this day, is a guy, it's like a scientist. It's just silly. It's named after genes because we can spread misinformation as if they're genes. That's where we
Yeah.
get that term. So I don't know. I'm a nerd. I prefer genes and memory to some pseudonym. But my favorite meme is this guy writing an amoeba in a doctor lab coat, or it might be a cell or something. I don't know. But it says science. It will either save or destroy us all. And I
Yeah.
feel that's where we are. We go through psycho in the name of learning.
Yeah.
And
But
the rich people, as it were, the Illuminati or what have you, whatever we want to call anybody with power, you don't have any. So even if you could have a say so, too bad, kid.
yeah. I mean, that's a whole other conspiracy too about how like the 1% keep us sick. They want us to have cancer because it's $1 billion a year, it's billions of $1 trillion a year industry, really. And like they want us to not have the cure to these things like diabetes, like all this stuff, because it's
Yeah, I
completely
heard that the
plausible.
cure to cancer was in Hitler's diary. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
heard this. That's just another great conspiracy. But we have some of it translated into English, and from what I've seen, it hints that it could be there, but we don't have all of his diaries. And supposedly his family had died from cancer. So, and that being a possibility of running in the family with limited knowledge and science, he was terrified of getting it, so put a lot of money and time into that. Actually,
Yeah.
Hitler's is like kind of a kingpin of a lot of conspiracies. The Glocken, the time machine, the bell,
Yeah.
and there was results too. It
Because
just
he
affected.
had the money, man. If he was the most diabolical evil man that we've ever had in the last 2 centuries. In the last two
Yeah,
centuries.
yeah. I like the qualifier. You're like, well, there's some evil out there.
Yeah, I mean there are. So
And dig this: both Napoleon and Hitler had only one testicle, and still, with that limited testosterone, accomplished that.
yes,
That
I mean, come on now. Like
is,
it's only once in a lifetime are you gonna see somebody that or hear about somebody that actually has took over the world in diabolical ways, you know? But like,
There was and Genghis Khan, like something like
yeah,
90% of Chinese people can trace their lineage back to him because he basically conquered and raped everything.
yeah,
Can you
yeah,
imagine? Can you
yeah,
imagine? I mean, no one got to kill you on this on a voyage so long and aggressive that you literally are responsible for the majority of a whole heritage of people's offspring. Like, you made it to that level. How do
yeah,
you even live that long? It's just amazing enough to me.
yeah. I mean, I mean, you know how Hitler created methamphetamines and all this other stuff. I mean, there's so many things that he's been
The CIA
attributed
distributing
to.
crack, if you're going down that one,
Yeah.
to the African community. That's what I heard, and I wouldn't be surprised. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's another conspiracy about how the government seriously, and heroin too, that it has ties into the heroin trade, and that's
We already
why
know they resell it. We have
yeah.
enough to prove what they do with the confiscated guns and drugs, but it's wild to think that the whole country is potential guinea pigs for whatever the latest scientific craze is.
Oh my
Whether it's
god.
5G technology was a big one for a while, and there are a lot of dangers to it, but people would rather have fast internet.
Yeah. I'm one of them. How can I game without it? All right.
Have you seen? Let me give you a little bit of a visual for 5G, just because we're here and this is what it's about, right? I lived right behind the house of a dude who was in the Navy, so of course he has all of the highest, latest tech stuff when I lived with the former address. So 5G was the latest, newest thing, and of course he's got that up there. But what was shocking to me is now animals behave much more on magnetism and stuff than we do, especially birds, which actually have magnetite in their brains. But they fly in formation, right? We've all seen birds fly in formation, and they would get to the spot a certain number of feet around his house and literally go around it and then rejoin up on the other side. And to see that every day as I'm going out back to smoke and shit, that's pretty. It gets you to thinking, like,
Yeah.
why are all those birds avoiding that spot? And around the same time, you hear about whales beaching themselves several years ago. This is around 5G dropping because Navy people were testing this stuff out on the sea, and whales were beaching themselves, and birds were killing themselves by the thousands. It looked like something out of the movie The Birds. So it was
It's one of my favorite movies.
I wouldn't put anything past our government at this point.
Yeah, no, me either. After hearing HARP and after hearing the fluoride in the water and after hearing, they're all controlling, there's just so many things that conspiracy theory with Jesse Ventura covered that blew my mind whenever I was in my 20s. I'm 39 now, but boom, oh my God, how the Federal Reserve was the whole top 1% was voted as directors on the Federal Reserve when they first created the Federal Reserve. That's a whole other thing. But I think this country wouldn't be what it is without conspiracy theories, though, because you think you're smarter than the average bear, so you think you're smarter than the public, and then whenever you start thinking that maybe oh, I get it and they don't, maybe they just don't care and we're the crazy ones,
Well, I think BLM hits the nail on the head on certain issues anyway, and one of those is they're very aware of a system that is a system of systems designed to keep people running the rat race.
Yeah.
To keep them from ever having any power, and that's all people, not just black people, but still, it does affect them more in certain ways. They're systems on systems. The medical system is one of those systems, and the medical system, I don't know all we'll have time to dive into here, but that's been shown in the past with other conspiracies to deliberately poison and kill half of us. I've heard people sitting in jail just dropping an ear, stay up at night and people are always chatty and stuff. So what else is there to do? I listen, whether it's my business or not.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. Yeah.
One of the things that you would hear about is spermicide being put in soda and other things like that to keep people from having kids. I don't
Right.
know necessarily that I believe that one, though. I mean, on one hand, it would support the overpopulation thing wherever they want to kill us because of that to save the planet, allegedly. You know, like you see, I'm glad we're diving into this. So much fun. The chemtrails. I know you've seen these. Those
Of
are not
course.
clouds. There's still people
No.
out there so dumb that, like, excuse me, so uneducated on the matter.
So ignorant on the matter.
Yeah. Ignorance, not so much a shame as being unwilling to learn. Albert Einstein. But they think these are clouds. Now, I've never seen a cloud that expands and changes shapes. You know, they're spraying harmful chemicals, and there's a list of known chemicals that we found them out to be, and they're practically all toxic to us. And they're seeding the clouds. And this is for more than one reason. One, you said you talked about HAARP, so you already know about the weather control experiments.
Yep.
But another is there's barium and some other chemicals that were used to, in a test with cows, I believe it was, to make them more docile and easy to control. What a surprise that they're spraying that in our breathable air.
Yeah. I mean, come on now. Ooh, you know, because they want to keep us in the dark, though. They want us to be stupid. They want us to go after the new iPhone or the new Mercedes. They want us to worship these, you know, they want us to worship these celebrities as their gods. And like, it's just ridiculous how stupid that they think that we are and that we actually are as the public, you know, like most of us.
We are. We like toys too much. We never grow up.
Most people would rather stay in the dark than to know this stuff. That's why the ones that like the conspiracy theories are often considered a little crazy.
Yeah, we get locked up or something.
Yeah,
you can't talk or kill.
Medication. Yeah, we have to get on medication for the rest of our life. Like this is true. Like, and you know, schizophrenics often talk about this kind of stuff.
They're more right than wrong, but they don't know how to word it to you.
Right. Like they talk about CIA agents and the federal government.
I was on a bus one time where a guy was telling me that he was hearing the CIA in his teeth. And he had recently gotten it may be, but probably not, but maybe, you know, he'd recently gotten a filling. But who are we to know? Like, really, if they put something in there, because there is technology that makes this possible. I think it's in New Jersey. I forget what state has already implemented it, but if you fall asleep with your head up against the window is set with a vibration that's inaudible if you're not up against it. But because of the space in between your brain and your skull, when your head's up against it, you can hear advertisements. So if you fall asleep on the bus, hopefully you're more susceptible to the advertisements. That's a real technology there. Yeah. So who's to say you can't just give someone extra microtransmitter or something to make them a little bit more vulnerable?
Well, here's a recent conspiracy theory about how they're putting microchips in the corona vaccines. That's a new one that I heard recently. And I honestly fully believe the government was the one that released the coronavirus. I really believe.
Of course. I don't know how much you should say that on air, but yeah, I've already pointed out the dangers. It's your call. 100%, because I've seen videos over 10 years ago talking about it. And they talked about, they didn't call it coronavirus, but they said, we're going to need to create a pandemic to get people to try a form of medicine that's never been done before. Combine that with our Black Goo podcast.
Yeah. Boom.
Hey, what if we just talked enough in encrypted little segments that the real rabbit hole divers had to piece this together to make it coherent, and then we're never in trouble.
Code? Like, are we Da Vinci coding it up?
We just told you the secrets are out there, folks. Keep tuning in.
I mean, these are just all crazy. These are all crazy theories that people come up with, and who knows how much they're true or not true, or, you know, we don't really know the truth. And the
microchip thing, though, was something they were talking about trying to actually implement. Oh, I wish I could see that. That's so tiny on my version of the screen.
It says graphene in the vaccine turns you into a 5G antenna.
I know exactly what they're talking about, too. Yeah. It's that's the best way that they could have summarized it. I can tell you that much. So one of the things, Alex Jones, there's a couple things I wanted to mention, but it was flowing so smoothly. Alex Jones was targeted by the FBI, supposedly. We're going to shut your show down and all this stuff. We'll get you for something. And the reason why I think that he isn't murdered, by the way, personally, is because you make every little bit of crazy shit he talked about right to the listeners. If you did that, you create a martyr. You know, kind of like Jesus. Once they nailed him to 2 planks of wood, that dude was a god. No offense to anybody out there, but that definitely amplified his career. Coronavirus has not been isolated. It's not real, just a brand. Well, coronavirus is real. It depends how you want to look at terms of real, actually. Was it created? Was it modified? Yeah. But corona is the name for how the cells end up looking, for the little crowning. So like that's kind of always been a thing there. But as far as the amplification of, I'm going to try to juggle all these thoughts of the 5G towers and such. There is some truth to that. Alex Jones covered it years ago, talking about in the chemtrails spraying microtransmitters and such. So, and this black graphene with our former story, you can see how it reacts to electrical stimuli. Where we talked vaguely to say you could control DNA with it. The science is real. I've been studying even just brain waves for like 20 years, and I can tell you just a sound that's inaudible to the human ear. You'd be surprised what you could do. You can make someone crap themselves. That episode on South Park is real. The brown, it's real. It's real. You can put people to sleep.
South Park is a beautiful thing. South Park
they got in trouble a couple times, but almost always seem to bypass the censors with how they do it.
I don't know how they do it either, but Family Guy.
It's the same way Family Guy does it. If you hate on everybody, no one can say what your beliefs really are.
Exactly. That's what we were just saying the other day. Like, that's exactly it. If, you know, like if you hate on everybody, everybody has a slice of the pie. There's no favoritism, you know.
And I have to say that with my music a lot. Like, you know, give me time, I'll get to you. That's how I put it.
Yeah. Like with my music, I either like it or I don't. Like, I give things a shot, but I either like it or I don't. Like I won't even entertain it. But anyway, so okay, let's talk about the CIA. Let's talk about how dirty and corrupt they really are. Like we all know
so dirty.
They are.
All right, so you already talked about a little bit because we're really just short stemming stuff for people to look deeper into for real.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you realize how many hours it would take to really cover even one of these subjects thoroughly. The CIA, I had made a couple notes on different things, or we had I mentioned Tuskegee experiments and stuff we did already. Hey, here's a fun one. A lot of people know these ones. Some of these people highlight a lot, like Operation Paperclip. You know, World War II, we took in Nazi engineers and technicians and stuff and tried to make them work for us for a better advantage in the Cold War, which is psycho. Like, this is saying, please kill me faster if you ask me, but okay. Hey, here's a fun one for you. I'm going to sidestep on this because this is the only one that doesn't fit in any other logical order. And I found this in an article trying to find something that I already didn't have memorized for this program tonight, actually. An actual gaydar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in 1961, this just shows we're all crazy, man. And then I'll jump from here back to CIA and injections and such. But in 1961, a Canadian inventor named Frank Cocaine into America.
Yeah. I was about to say that. Anyway,
Hashtag woke life. So Frank Robert Way was hired by his government, his Canadian government, to construct a device that would determine if people were gay or not, supposedly to help identify communist sympathizers and remove them from the government. But they actually made a real device for this. I doubt it really did anything other than move a meter or something. That was just too juicy to not just drop a line in there, though, to say that, hey, did you know there was a real gaydar? What? Yeah. You know, like, yeah. What do you think it's going to say about us? No.
I mean, the fact that we thought we needed something that much, that they put that much effort into it. But anyway, so yeah, Lucy says something about cocaine into America. We kind of grazed on it for a little bit about how the CIA leaked crack cocaine into the ghettos of the bigger cities, the slums,
They're
and
urban areas.
yes,
There's no PC terms to talk with
there,
these days, though.
this is a true story. This is what the show The Wire is based off of, about how they had a block radius in downtown Baltimore, and the drug dealers were allowed to deal there, and the prostitutes were allowed to prostitute there, and everything was like sanctioned, and they could only do it in this one block radius, and then everything else was illegal, and it was like the Wild West. Like all the dealers were making mad money. Like it was crazy. And then
It's a mob.
it
Mobs
is a
have
mob.
always been a thing. Make a casino, rob people on purpose, make them want to come here and get robbed.
Yeah, I never understood gambling, because I always felt like it was like, why am I giving
it's
my money?
stacked against you. This is not, our goal is not to lose.
I don't want to just give somebody my money on the hope and the dream that I get more money, because like I just, there's more things that I'd rather spend my money on, I guess, than to get the gamble. But anyway, so like there are so many things that could be branched off of the Bohemian Grove, as you were talking about. So what is another one that you like to discuss tonight?
Since we related all of this stuff anyway, I think next logical sequence, because we mentioned vaccines, corrupt governments, medical institutions.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about releasing cocaine and other little things like that, death on the public. Okay, well, I sent you a copy of some of these things, so you can tag on it if you want to touch on any of these points at any time. But we've spread both cancer and AIDS through pharmaceuticals before. And this is real stuff. You guys can look these things up. From 1954 to 1961, SV40. And you know how we all have these little names, just like Corona, COVID-19, all this stupid shit.
Right.
So a simian virus, cancer-causing virus, showed up in polio vaccines, according to the American Journal of Cancer. 98 million people contaminated with inactivated polio inoculations. The cells, turns out, to make this vaccine were used from rhesus monkeys infected with SV40, National Vaccine Information Center. So 1961, the policies changed. They're not allowed to use the original polio as a vaccine anymore, but it turns out they don't stop using that for another 2 years, that these same vaccines were still to use. And then again in 1980, to show that we're not new to introducing poison to you in the form of a cure. In 1980, Bayer medicine, monkey virus. That's a good title. This person would be great for creating the hashtags.
Yes.
Hashtag in 1980, hashtag monkey virus.
I love
Bayer medicine was causing Tale of Henrietta Lacks. I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't think I know that one.
I don't know that one either.
Bayer medicine in 1980, this pharmaceutical company, had a blood clotting medicine for hemophiliacs that turned out to have a high risk of transmitting AIDS. Over 4 years later, the project was fixed, right? Now we have the good medicine that isn't going to give you AIDS, right? But we're only going to give the good medicine to the US and Europe, and we're going to sell the bad version to Asia and Latin America. So I don't know how much I buy into systemic racism through everything permeating society, but I definitely believe that there are racial people in power.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like absolutely. I also think that like racism is going to be alive because it's a profit maker. They're not going to ever kill racism. Like it's always going to be there, whether we evolutionize.
The problems is how we're handling it.
Yeah.
And this is true of any segregated or minority group of any kind. Like don't look at me different, let me act different, let me hate on those who hate me. Two swords clashing against each other is called a sword fight. That's not changing anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, all right. So when I was in my 20s, I saw this 3-part documentary called Zeitgeist. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's amazing. It talks about the Federal Reserve. It talks about how we make our own money. It talks about how, about Fort Knox and our gold and all this other stuff. And then it talks about religion, and it talks about how we're depleting the earth of its resources and how we should really go apart. And this really inspired me so much so that I went into college to do geothermal, to learn about geothermal technology, and I ended up getting a degree in biotechnology because of it. But it changed my way of thinking of the government, of
It's a good
religion.
documentary.
Yes, it's super good, and it's the 3 parts, so you can find it on YouTube.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Cancer, sexual cells, culture, and vaccines. I read a post earlier today that was talking about using your own cells to grow steak.
What?
I haven't looked into it yet. I
Is
didn't
it
have
like
time for
stem
the episode, or I
cells?
would have been prepared. Yeah, I don't know how it works. You take your own cells, and there's some process you could do, and you can grow food like they're cloning all this other crap. But aren't you a cannibal? I have
Yes.
no information other than the little snip I found on Facebook
And
today.
if you're a cannibal, you can't eat you'll go crazy if you eat too much human flesh. That is true. The
Well,
enzymes and
well, it's
brain.
I think of
Yeah.
blood too, because animals change when they have come into contact with human blood. But
Yeah.
I would definitely agree. You look at Aboriginal tribes and stuff, and I'm not to say that they're wrong or whatever their spiritual practices or anything, but there's a lot of it based around cannibalism, and they'll just walk up and bite you.
Yeah. Yeah. That was creepy. What movie did we watch the other day? It was the Jungle Cruise. Have you ever seen it? It has The Rock in it. Anyway, it was about how like the tribes in South America are cannibals, and there are instances where people have definitely gone missing in South America, and you have to wonder where they went. And then their bones turned up bleached.
Well, I used to
Um,
have a theory about the Bermuda Triangle like that. Like, there's probably plenty of life there, but A, it's a technological dead zone, and B, it's probably ran by cannibal cults.
yeah, I mean,
That's been my theory since a kid. It makes the most sense that if you go there, you get killed. Like, there's one person should have came back by now. It's not a black hole, so
yeah.
something is happening there.
Where do they go? Who knows, right?
They went right to the pot or whatever they make pots out of on an island.
Well, I think that we started a good conversation about conspiracy theories. I want everybody to at least delve into a couple of them, because we're going to do part 2 tomorrow. No, next week, not tomorrow, next week. And I want to talk about more about worldwide conspiracies, not just American conspiracies, but I want to talk about more European and African and all that kind of stuff, like how we introduced AIDS to Africa and all. We'll get into all that kind of stuff. And I also want to talk about the Federal Reserve, because it's corrupt as hell, man. And if you can, watch the conspiracy theory about it too, because it describes all this stuff. But anyway, all right. So
can I add one more thing before we get out of here?
absolutely. I was going to say that we're going to talk about our social media stuff. And so whatever you need to say after that, like, absolutely. So how
on the government thing, one thing that we'll have to come back to is in a future episode is, what is a social security number? That's a really good one.
Yes. And
like, really, you've seen the movies with the barcodes, but what is it really? And we'll have to touch into that with some legitimate research. But one thing I thought that wouldn't take too long that I could still include was, you probably see me pick this up, which I didn't realize I had till it fell off my door frame. I forgot about it. You won't be able to see it well. I got a crap camera, but
okay.
This, although this is just me redrawing it, there's a fun conspiracy to this too. Nobody knows what the hell this means. But it was one of the only surviving relics of Pompeii. If you've ever rode that Busch Gardens ride where you're going through the broken like buildings and shit with flame everywhere, that was Pompeii.
Yeah.
And that place got destroyed by fire. But one of the few things that remained that wasn't broken, that stood intact, was this depiction on like a pillar.
Huh.
So people have contributed this in the occult world to mean protection. Some people, because it's basically a running anagram.
Mm-hmm.
Like Satyr, Rotas, Opera,
like
Repo.
To me, like runes.
Oh yeah, I wrote it at how it appeared on the original, because I'm traditional.
Okay,
But
cool. That's
like
cool.
I thought that was pretty fascinating. That there's a mystery story to this. Some people relate it to the Apostle Peter, but that it's a protective symbol. But still, to this day, scholars can't tell you what it means. But it survived, unlike everything else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, how can people get you on social media?
how can people what me?
Get you on social media.
Facebook.com/Kevin Chaos Official.
Okay, awesome. Do you have an Instagram too, or no?
I do, but it's just not. It's goofy. It's the same thing. It's Instagram, Kevin Chaos Official. Everything I do.
Okay, awesome. All right, so everybody can catch me on Facebook, Tori Rush, TORYRUSH. I'm the first one that shows up because, yeah, I'm cool like that. And then you can get me on Instagram at Rush Tori, and that's with a Y too. Don't forget that. And I'm going to be doing a TikTok thing soon, so stay tuned for that. And also, I'm making my own YouTube channel, and that will be online sometime this week. Woo! And then you can also catch all of my episodes on theindieradio.com, and you can see all the ones that I've done in the past 6 years. I've been doing this a long time. But anyway, so next week, Conspiracy Theories Part 2. And I can't wait to see everybody there. Thank you. Bye.